With the growing hype around innovation, many organizations are being tempted to actually corrupt what it means to be innovative, all in the name of addressing their critics. Is your organization authentic when it comes to being innovative? I'll be right back.
This is the Killer Innovations Podcast with Phil McKinney. Keep in mind that the information and opinions expressed in this podcast are Phil's, and Phil's alone, and they don't necessarily reflect those of his past, current, or future employers. Now, here's Phil McKinney.
I've spent most of my career thinking, trialing, writing, researching on innovation. And I've seen this whole innovation wave go through its phases. Early on, when I was first recognizing the importance of innovation, trying to get management to even think about it, the first phase is basically ignore it and hope that it goes away. When people start seeing that innovation is becoming important in other businesses, they basically shift to the phase of it's for others. It's not an issue here. Then finally, when it starts to catch on, they start thinking in the back of their minds, maybe it's something we should look into. Let's go create a study group to see what the role of innovation might be. And then last but not least, all of a sudden it becomes urgent and we're behind. We got to hurry up and get innovation to be part of our organization and part of our culture. This innovation hype has gotten out of control. I mean, just in the last year, just the front pages of Business Week, Time Magazine, Harvard Business Review, newspapers, blogs, books, just the sheer volume of this noise is getting out of control. It's just becoming at a deafening level. As we can expect, now we're seeing companies trying to make themselves look like innovators. They found themselves behind the curve, and rather than really thinking about what the role of innovation is within their organization, they are figuring out ways to play the system. One of the most recent common practices is to appoint a CIO, a Chief Innovation Officer. What are they thinking? Like it's one person's job to be innovative? And that this will change or make the company more innovative? It'll get the employees excited? Now, not all of these new CIOs are fakes. They're not there just to be able to put the press release out in order to get the shareholders to think that innovation has become important. Some have been very thoughtful, but many, when you look at it, it really is being driven by the fact that these companies want to get out in the marketplace and be viewed as being innovative. What you normally find when they go off and they create these new, quote, CIO roles is that any attempt to innovate outside this new group either gets squashed or it gets sucked into the corporate overhead. It's really an area of control, not in an area of enablement, not an ability to unleash the innovation within the organization. Now, we've all seen it. We've seen it in previous fads, business process reengineering in the 80s. The rollout of the knowledge workers in the 70s. We've seen it happen before, and typically it turns off the employees to change. Typically employees are walking around thinking, it's yet another management fad. This one's not going to have legs. It's not authentic. We're in the middle of the organization. If we ignore it, it will eventually go away. So how do you know if your organization falls into this, quote, fake category? Well, there's a couple of ways to just do an outside test to see if the management team is truly focused on innovation. One, do they measure innovation only by the R&D spend? Now, typically, most companies out there will look at R&D spend as a percentage of revenue. So are you spending 3%, 5%, 15% of your revenue in R&D? And management will stand up and say, see, we're spending 10% of our revenue on R&D. And that is what's supposed to convey this message. Well, what about the R&D categories? How much of that R&D spend is being developed into core businesses? How much of that R&D spend is being specifically targeted to go and create new growth areas. What about R&D impact to margin? So it's not just about going out there and touting one metric and then using that to try to prove that you're innovative. Get innovative and then use the appropriate metrics to show impact. The other is a lot of times management will talk about the importance of innovation in speeches and press releases, but then they don't assign the resources. There's no budget, there's no head count, there's no pooling of dollars to allow experiments to be done. There's no executive support from the standpoint of creating an environment that encourages people to go out and try new things. Now, this corruption of what it means to be innovative has long-lasting repercussions. One, it builds up resistance. If it comes off as a fad, then trying to get the organization to change, to move towards this new creative economy will be much, much harder. In addition, within the organization, once you've created this separate innovation group, other groups will come across and say, hey, innovation is not my job, it's the new CIO's job to be the innovative team. It's not part of my task day in and day out. And then lastly, you'll always come across with the critics that will say, hey, we tried this before and it didn't work. You gotta not fake it. It cannot be a fad. If you're gonna move into the creative economy, you've gotta be a truly innovative organization. So how do you fight it? Well, first off, give your executives this podcast. Have them listen to it. I'll be your mouthpiece to them to convince them that by going out there and corrupting what it really means to be innovative is not going to have legs. It's not going to change their organization, and it's not going to get them to where they need to be. If your company truly wants, if your organization truly wants to make innovation a core of their culture and their business success, then they need to first find the hidden creative individuals within your organization. You have them. They're there. They may be hidden. They've gotten smart. It's like the whack-a-mole game. They're not going to stick their head up out of the hole to get whacked on the head. But they're there. They're underground. Find them. And when you find them, give them the green light. Don't give them a new organization. Don't give them a new executive that's going to put processes and procedures. Simply give the creative people that you have within your organization the green light and recognize what you already have in these individuals. Second, find successes. Find innovative successes, no matter how small. Highlight them. Talk about them. Reward the individuals, reward the teams, and make those rewards public so others can see. And then go out and find more successes. Because once you start recognizing them and you're rewarding them, that's one way to communicate this green light to your organization that it's everybody's job to be innovative, not just the CIO. Third, find the failures. Find people who've tried things and it hasn't worked out. And highlight them. Reward them. Reward them in such a way that it gives courage to others to try. And then go out there and find more of those failures and encourage people to talk about the failures so that you can become a smarter organization. Next, tell stories. Weave stories of innovation success within your organization. And this is what the executive should do every time they're talking with employees, whether you do coffee talks, employee meetings, emails, broadcasts, however your organization communicates, tell stories. Tell stories of how an innovation got implemented and the results on the business or the results of an impact to a customer and solving a customer problem. Find stories of innovation from outside of your organization. If you really want to push your organization, talk about what's happening. Talk about those innovative success stories, the histories of success from those companies that had innovation become part of their culture. Now, in previous podcasts, I used to do these stories where we talked about, things like LL Bean and Marriott hotels, and I've gotten very strong positive response. And believe me, I would love to be able to do more of those. It's just a time factor. I'm trying to get some written now and try to weave them in once a month. But go back and listen to those. Go read and go find your own. Find those kinds of stories that you can share with your employees about the successes, about how other companies use creativity and innovation in their businesses and that help them succeed. Next, allocate real resources. Not just roll it up into the R&D spend, but set aside real dollars, real people, real approved headcount that can be hired around different projects and programs. Make these resources absolutely hands-off from any risk of budget cutting or downsizing. You've got to give confidence that management is going to be in this for the long haul. And fifth, set targets. Set a percentage of the R&D budget that's going to be set aside for innovation, and by innovation, by categories. How many are going to be in adjacencies? How many are going to be in fundamentally new areas? How many are going to be allocated for creating differentiation? Whatever term you want to use, set aside that percentage and then measure your organization about achieving those kinds of investments. This is the one budget category where it would be a very bad thing not to spend 100% of that money every year. If you're spending less than what you've allocated, then you're being unsuccessful. Set objectives for new products. How do you measure products? How many new products do you need to introduce? Set the number. And these are fundamentally new products, not, the latest edition of what you've already had, but being blue. Set objectives for new products. Come up with other measurements that make sense for your business, but what's important is make the measurements apply to everyone, not just the CIO and not just this department, but make the measurements apply to everyone, and then start measuring and start reporting and hold people accountable to go out and drive innovation, to be innovative, to come up with those ideas, to do those experiments, have those failures, but also to have those success. The objective, if you truly want to be an authentic, innovative organization, the objective is not to focus on creating a new department or organization. That doesn't do anything. It just allows you to create overhead, allows you to do turf building, kingdom building, whatever you want to call it. That's not the objective. It's not the objective just to go off and create red tape. Believe me, that will come. But it's not the objective to go off and create red tape. And the objective is not to fake the results. And what I mean by faking the results is, and I'm seeing this over and over and over again, and this is what just really burns me, is that you got companies out there who may not look good in the way that they're doing innovation from some metric, some public metric. So then they're finding the metrics or they're manipulating the metrics to make themselves look good. So rather than focusing on really being an authentic organization, they're corrupting what it really means in order to portray an image out into the marketplace. Now, if you truly want to be an authentic, innovative organization, the objective is to find those creatives already in the organization, support them, motivate your people. We as human beings are designed to create. We are designed to create things. We are to create families. We are to create societies. We are to create governments. We are to create, welfare systems to help those less advantaged. We are human beings. We are designed to create. So motivate your people by letting them know that creating is good. Ignite the passion. Find people who are passionate about certain areas and then let them loose into that area to go be innovative and go be creative. And most importantly is have real impact with real results. Don't fake it by coming up with some metric that makes you look good. Be honest. Have the intellectual honesty to be out there and to really say where you're working and where it's not working from the standpoint of your innovation programs. Don't get hung up on the hype of innovation. And I'm getting lots of emails and lots of calls from people wanting me to come out and speak to their management teams. And I'll do that in hopes of helping the listeners of this podcast. And many times these speaking arrangements are coming from you, the listeners, for me to come in and talk to your management team and hopefully, maybe kick them in the shins here a little bit and get them to wake up. But, the challenge, though, is that management is getting hung up. They're reading about innovation. They're reading about the success of innovation. They recognize that they're not there. And so they're getting all excited and wanting to have quick results. This is not a quick results program. So don't get hung up on the hype of innovation. And don't be tempted to think that a few quick fixes, put an organization in, we got to name a chief innovation officer, we got to come up with some metrics that make us look good. Don't think that the few quick fixes will fix your innovation gap. This takes time, but it takes the entire energy of the organization. Don't create off an organization. Use the creative people that you have. They may not be overly creative. Find those little successes and get those people out. Give them the green light to go do those innovative things that they can do. Maybe it's just a small little success that you can highlight, but highlight it. That will give the green light to your people to go do innovative things, come up with those creativities. And as they get more confidence that management's going to support them, the more successes you're going to see. Be innovative about how to be innovative. Do what works for you. Don't think you got to copy everything that's in this podcast or everything that you read in all these books or what you read in all the blogs. Find what works for you. And most importantly, think about it. If you copy what others are doing about their innovation, if you just copy what somebody else, take a book, copy it, take everything on this podcast, document it. If you're copying what others are doing, are you really being innovative? This week's Killer's Question is really around this whole concept of how do you challenge your organization. In a previous podcast, I shared a killer question that's gotten a lot of really strong positive response. And that killer question was, what assumptions do you have about how our industry operates? What assumptions do you have about how our industry operates? This is talking about all the hidden rules, particularly industries that are well established. We always do it this way. The industry customer buying cycle is always this way. The customer always looks like this. Well, you can tweak this killer question to challenge your organization. And I have 2 killer questions this week, 2 for the price of 1. What assumptions do you have about how our organization operates? Particularly larger, more established organizations kind of have these hidden rules. We always go through budget planning through these during this time of year. Our customer buying cycle is always this. This is the way we always sell to the customer. This is how we distribute our product. This is how we manufacture our product. This is where we manufacture our product. What assumptions do we have about how our organization operates? And what assumptions do we have about how we create new ideas, new products, or new services? What assumptions do we have about how we create new ideas, new products, new services? For example, is it always the thought that product management has to be the one to define a new product? Or that R&D is always done by this organization? Or that sign-off has this 5-step executive approval before a product can actually be released into the business? So again, what assumptions do you have about how we create new ideas, new products, new services? Now, for each idea, for each assumption that you identify for these 2 questions about how your organization operates and how you create new ideas, products, and services, for each idea you list, ask yourself, what would happen if we did the exact opposite? So 180 degrees from the assumption. Product definition is always done by product management. Okay? What happens if you gave that and assigned it to all of the executive assistants and have them define the new product within your organization. Manufacturing is always done in this country. What happens if we moved it completely to a different country that you would never thought of? What does that change? What would happen if you did the exact opposite? And out of those ideas, ask yourself, where would this lead you? This week's closing thought is about change. Let's face it, change is hard. And for large, established organizations, they have it the hardest. Why? Because they have this false impression that to succeed, they need to keep doing what they are doing today. Particularly if you're talking about very large numbers. You got to grow the business X percentage. You're already a very large organization. The most logical way to grow that number is to just do more of what you're doing already. But with the growing awareness that innovation is getting to be important and more important, established organizations are trying to find their way to change, and it's not easy. What is the easiest way to ride out these changes? Then we should all follow Jack Welch's advice. Change before you have to. And with that, thanks for listening. Please continue to send your feedback at podcast@killerinnovations.com. You can also Skype me at Phil_McKinney. I'm looking for comments on the show, comments on the length of the show. I'm getting about a 50-50 vote on the shorter format versus the longer format. So I'm continuing to seek input and advice on the format of the show and the length of the show. Also, send me emails on topics you would like to hear. Got some really good input this last couple of weeks, and I've added those onto the list of topics that will be coming up in a future podcast. Also, you may not know this, but you can post your comments specific to the show in the blog. So if you go to killerinnovations.com, there's an entry for each of the podcasts with all the show notes. In the bottom of the show notes, you can click on the comments field, and you can add your own comments, and you can see other comments that are posted. I'm actually going to be working here for a little while trying to actually allow you to see the comments on the main page, so you don't have to click. So you can actually see the trail of conversations or the trail of comments left around about each show. So please feel free to go to the blog and post your comments to the show in the show notes. As I've mentioned in the previous podcast, we've got this contest where I'm asking the listeners of the podcast to put on your creativity hats, sit down, and think of the best ways to promote the podcast, the best promotions, whether that's audio, graphical, icon, viral strategies, whatever. I'm asking for you to sit down and apply some of what you've heard from this podcast and apply it back to this podcast in coming up with the best promos, the best way to promote this podcast. Now, I've been asked by some listeners to extend the deadline because normally it was going to be the end of August, last day of August. We're now going to extend it till September 15th, primarily because for our European listeners who've been on holiday. Wouldn't you love to have long-term holidays? But got an email from a number of the European listeners who are coming back off of these all month of July or all month of August holidays, asking if they could have a little bit more time. So, September 15th, midnight, Pacific Coast U.S. time is the deadline for your submission. The top two winners for the best promotion for the podcast will each get a printed card deck copy of the entire set of killer questions. Now, I can't say the entire set because I haven't updated it, and I'm trying to get to getting them updated and put in the new questions that I've been developing or capturing as I've been creating these podcasts. So you'll get the most complete set that I have available at that time. Let me put it that way. So again, contest is still on. The challenge for you, the listener, is what is the best way to promote this podcast, or what promotion can you develop that would help spread the word of the value of the Killer Innovations podcast? Top 2 winners, best promotions, will get a printed copy of the entire set of Killer Questions. Also, I'm on LinkedIn. You can link into me by going into LinkedIn and sending me an invite to podcast@killerinnovations.com. And I will reply. Please make sure to note that you're a podcast listener, because I get lots of invites, and I want to make sure that I do create that linkages between our networks for the listeners of the podcast. Also, feel free to link to the site. I've noticed that more and more of the listeners are referencing the site on their own blogs or in comments that they're posting on other sites. Feel free to do that. I do appreciate that, because that helps just make more people aware of the Killer Innovations podcast. And also, don't forget to vote. Voting on Podcast Alley and Podcast Pickle and other sites is really the easiest way for you to say thanks to the producers of your favorite podcast for all the time and energy they put in to producing the great content that you listen to. With that, drop me an email this week. I'm looking forward to hearing your comments, and we'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.